Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the National Intel Report. I'm your host, John Statmiller. If it's Tuesday, special edition of the National Intel Report. Mr. Robert Chapman, are you there, Bob?
No, I am not, but I am.
We got Bobby, Robbie, and we got Johnny. Robbie.
Yes, sir.
How's the desert out there?
Desert is wonderful.
It is. Still dry?
It's cold out there.
Well, it was on Saturday. It's okay today.
Yeah, these poor people, by the way, Bob, out there in Arizona, a lot of them are coming down sick because of the weather changes. Cold and rainy, and, you know, it's good for the desert. The flowers pop up. You know, everybody loves it, the birds, the bees, but the people are having a problem because they like that non-humid, dry heat. But it's a dry heat. I have no sympathy for these people.
Well, they're going to be fine. You know, it might affect them, you know, physically and mentally, but sooner or later, if they stay out in that kind of weather, they'll turn into prunes.
Guys, the market, Barack Obama speaks today. And
he did.
Yes. And, you know, the funny thing about this is I searched all over the web. I was only able to catch about a half hour of his propaganda speech. And he got biblical on us. I swear, he went into the thing of building a house on sand versus rock. And he came up with his 5-point plan. And I believe he was speaking in a college. Was that Georgetown, Robbie, or was that Harvard?
Georgetown.
Georgetown University. And when he went through his 5 steps, he had thunderous applause. Nobody standing up and yelling at Barack for being what Barack is. But the funny thing about this is this speech is nowhere on the Internet. Nowhere. And
well, the stock market dropped 100 points after he made it.
Well, it was bouncing around. I was watching the markets when they opened up this morning, and they were down 100, and then they were down 49, and well, they closed down 100.
Well, we can blame it on Ben, the helicopter pilot.
Well, and nowhere in this, and he took various subjects head on, as he put it, and you know they seem to be missing the fact since the Fed Reserve took over their number one job of stabilizing the currency under the Federal Reserve, it has lost better than 98% of its purchasing power. I'm talking about the federal dollar. So therefore, they're not doing their jobs. But having said that, he's there to justify the bailout programs. He didn't like how some of the money was started under the TARP under George Bush. But, you know, everything's going to be okay. And I'm sitting there in absolute amazement watching this guy just slather lies all over everybody, not only at the university, but America. But as I said, the funny thing is that speech is nowhere to be found. Even cspanjunkie.org didn't even have it. We'll take this break. Robbie, Bobby, and Johnny, we'll be right back.
Get ready for Real Talk Radio. You're listening to the National Intel Report with your host, John Statmiller.
Dow Jones down 137.63, NASDAQ off 27.59, TSX Gold off 450, but the United States dollar was up 18 cents, closed out at 84.75. Gold, right around, and I was watching this morning. Gold was at about $8.99 at about 2 a.m., and they said it was off a couple of bucks. When the market opened, all of a sudden, gold was down, and no reflection whatsoever, folks, on what the COMEX set the price at last night versus today. But at any rate, gold at $890.30. And Robbie, your famous saying, and you said this at 750.
I think it was 710 to be exact.
710? Okay.
Yeah, it's a gift.
It's a gift.
Yeah, but that was basically, and I don't know what the correlation is, but the standard line is retail, when the retail sales figures came in, and obviously the the reading on the PPI that came out. They were expecting it to come in at 0.1. It came in at 0.0. And then today we had the triple, of course. We had Barack Obama, we had Ben Bernanke, and we had Lawrence Summers. It was a full course press today. I'm surprised gold ended up as well as it did.
Well, and I was watching Bloomberg, and I didn't catch the guy's name. They did a screen wipe. But he was saying that, gold is going to be bullish for the next foreseeable future, 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I think Bernanke's, because he was asked a question about the U.S. dollar, and he obviously he commented on the dollar, which is unusual, but the Fed now, I guess, can comment on the dollar. And he said that the dollar will remain the world's reserve currency. And he poo-pooed any other suggestion of another currency replacing the dollar.
Well, that's probably good because we know it's headed down, so it can't do anything but help gold. It's certainly not going to go up.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, in your international forecaster, you start off with, for those of you too young to remember, the World Bank and the IMF were creatures of John Maynard Keynes, and then Assistant Treasury Secretary Harry Dexter White, another Soviet spy, just like
Alger Hiss.
Yeah, well, not only Alger Hiss, but Henry Kissinger. His code name, his Soviet code name was Bohr during World War II. They, you say, the IMF and the World Bank, have competed with commercial banks as an instrument of elitist policy. And this is their adjunct to the one world policy. Now, this has brought us a legacy of socialism and fascism, as today's Secretary Treasury calls for a trebling of lending power for the IMF. By the way, just wanted to tell you, Bob, Obama made reference to the detractors to his grand plan about socialism, and without saying the word socialism or fascism, that this needs to be done. He's putting a full court press, as you said, Robbie, full court press here on opening up all fronts to battle this crisis. And as I'm listening to this, and there were no rebuttals, by the way, from, how you see on the news programs from Republicans or independents, or calling it what it is, fascism and socialism. Now, it is what it is, and I am just amazed that there is not more of an uproar over this.
There's nobody defending capitalism. I mean, I've never heard a peep out of any of the so-called conservative talking heads in this country that have stood up and made a strong argument that the problems that we are now facing has absolutely nothing to do with the failure of capitalism. It's a failure of socialism. I mean, this wasn't a capitalistic failure. This was a socialistic failure, because we've been practicing socialism for the last 70 years, for goodness sake. And Obama, once again, today made that point very clear by putting all the blame on Wall Street, rather where the blame belongs, and that's in Washington, D.C., with years of socialist influence into policies, and then went on to add insult to injury by saying that there's new rules are going to apply to Wall Street. There are so many laws on the books that prohibit every kind of financial activity known to mankind. It's a joke. I mean, this was a failure of regulators not doing their job, and they don't need any laws to do their job. They've got more than enough laws to prosecute anybody for anything. For goodness sake, can go to jail for spitting on the sidewalk. So, yeah, I mean, but the collective wisdom worldwide is that what we are witnessing is a failure of capitalism, and it just goes to show you what groupthink is all about.
Well, and I was waiting, and this speech by Obama today was a must-hear, a must-see. You know, this has been the most important speech that he's made since taking the presidency. And I was just haunted. I was sickened by the fact that he's in full support of these banks and the bailout because talking to the college students there at the university, referring...
puppy mill of socialism.
Yeah, no, and that, thank you very much, because that is exactly what I took away from that. When he was rolling out his grand socialistic plan, he was getting nothing but applause.